Mike Richards has told stories for longer than he can remember, usually to people that had much better things to be doing. He mainly writes books and video games, and he hopes to help ensure that games continue to achieve the recognition they deserve as a legitimate art form. He has far more story ideas than he knows what to do with, and is yet to drag most of them to a state even remotely ready for publication. But a piece was just accepted as a finalist in a statewide college arts competition known as Skyway. Mike, come on up.
Hello, is this working? This sounds like it's working to me. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
All right, cool. So, I'm going to be reading two sections of an epic poem that I've just kind of been putting together in my spare time. One of them I'll be starting with, and the other one I will be ending with later on after everyone else is already done. So this first piece is the thing that won the competition they were just referring to. So at the end of the month I'll find out if it won the whole thing. Very exciting. So, here we go. He was a warrior among friends, a lord among subjects, a god among men. Legend sat upon his shoulders a diligent scribe, and he in turn was good to legend as well. For he knew he echoed through history as loud as the applause of thunder, celebrating the rain and the lights. But it was responsibility that composed this stature, not gift as those who've never known its touch insist. Should harsh generations suffer his memory to haunt them, it lay in his hands alone that his memory should be worth the trouble and make good company in dark times. The fire crackled warmly at his front, and the cold wind at his back flowed down from the peaks where fouler things than destiny lay. His face was weathered from wind like sandstone, his body large as a tree with all its seasons remembered, and his hand and heart marched to the same call of drums, calloused and dry. The gray in his hair faded softly to the gray of the fur that fought a bold but losing battle at the wind on his behalf. The shard of sharp silver always within reach repelled such dim notions of solitude as an empty fire always cast. Forged by demons for the slaying of gods, its course of centuries it could not feel had somehow made it his and his alone. His tool to make his name. Movement caught and held his eye. A snowflake danced at his shoulder, perhaps seeking absolution for the cold it had caused before consigning itself to the fire. He was about to grant it mercy he so rarely provided and push it on its way safe, when its deception became known and his anger swelled with the crystal. For behind it he could now see a behemoth, towering over all that was foolish or unfortunate to stand in its shadow. He had turned his back to the mountain for a reason. The blade through which he claimed the destiny that was promised him would shine and dance in the presence of a new path. He could not ignore such warnings. The mountain, it had whispered, to the mountain. And so he came because he knew he could not. But all the while his dreams were full of dark and scattered prophecy, and the voices of his friends cried madness at the thought. Sometimes he wished he listened, but the sword sang again, and he remembered why he hated it so. He was older than when he had been young, and wiser than when he had been brave. The call now seared his flesh, and the cold burnt his soul at the dry grasslands of summer. But he carried forth where he knew the pain would pass, and this momentary life will flare then fade, and only the legends will remain. His journey up to the highest pits of hell could wait until the sun cast whatever feeble light would reach this place. But he would not find sleep, for he had seen the mountain again, and his dreams would be impure, burdened with the weight of a million futures that awaited him. As the fire in its pit, its cage, grew dim, and he turned to rest his head, something caught his eye. But this time he smiled, for some small part of him felt justice had been done. A tiny wisp of steam, evaporating water. And that's it.